The world of horror cinema is a nightmare dimension of clowns, vampires, killers, and monsters. But who are the real people behind these iconic characters? Chances are you'd never recognize them. A surprising new entry into the pantheon of horror movie villains is Art the Clown, the antagonist of Terrifier and its two sequels. Played to perfection by actor David Howard Thornton, the killer clown made Terrifier 2 a surprise hit, and ensured his return in 2024's Terrifier 3. Although his face is hidden beneath Art's white clown mask, Thornton's mischievous personality shines through as the character gleefully slices and dices his way through an impressive number of victims. But despite the acclaim he's been winning for his performance, Thornton says that he feels humbled that his character has been placed in the company of other characters from classic horror movies. He told Alternative Press, "I would never imagine being compared to the greats like Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Mike Myers, or even Bela Lugosi's Dracula. That echelon of characters is pretty surreal." There are a few differences between those characters and Art the Clown, however. For one thing, while other horror villains are often driven by a thirst for retribution, Art's motives are far more pure. As Thornton told The Hollywood Reporter, he's not doing any of this out of revenge. He's not angry or anything like that. He finds killing people to be a source of entertainment for himself, and that really helped me solidify him because he's the anti-clown.
Time to float.
Stephen King's iconic horror novel It was first adapted for screen in a 1990 television miniseries starring Rocky Horror alum Tim Curry as evil supernatural clown Pennywise. But when It was adapted for the big screen in 2017, the role went to Bill Skarsgård. As the actor told Us Weekly, being cast as Pennywise was a lengthy process, and he needed to persuade the powers that be at Warner Brothers that he was right for the part. He remembered, "Once I got the role, I was like, I got the role. Then it was like, oh my god, I got the role. How am I going to do this?" Skarsgård's doubts proved to be unfounded as he received rave reviews for his performance as King's creepy clown. Beyond the extensive makeup and prosthetics that transformed him into Pennywise, Skarsgård also added his own touches, most notably the clown's chilling, humorless laugh. Speaking of icons, Skarsgård explained, "I wanted the laugh to sound like someone who's having a panic attack and is almost about to cry. Even doing it out loud evokes a kind of unsettling feeling in myself. I kind of like it." Jeepers Creepers thrust a weird new character into the horror landscape. The Creeper, a demonic entity that chows down on human flesh during a 23-day feeding frenzy that occurs once every 23 years. The character was played by actor Jonathan Breck, who returned to wreak havoc in two sequels, Jeepers Creepers 2 in 2003 and Jeepers Creepers 3 in 2017. Another actor, Jerome Benjamin, played the Creeper in 2022's Jeepers Creepers Reborn. With his face hidden beneath extensive prosthetics that reportedly took up to 7 hours to apply, Breck could never be mistaken for the character when out of makeup. In an interview with Neil Young's Film Lounge, she said, "I must admit I was kind of disappointed that this was my first big studio movie and you couldn't see my face." While promoting the third film in the franchise, Breck offered up his theory as to why the character became so popular with horror fans. He told IGN, "I think the reason it appeals to people is because people don't take the time to make original monster movies anymore. They're very rare. And aside from being a horror film, I think it was a good story." A new type of film fiend emerged in 1988 with the release of Child's Play, in which a kid's doll named Chucky becomes possessed by the soul of a serial killer. While Chucky himself was brought to life through a combination of animatronics and puppetry, the little psycho's voice was supplied by actor Brad Dourif. Dourif has enjoyed a distinguished career in film and TV, appearing in the Lord of the Rings trilogy and HBO's revisionist western Deadwood. Chucky has remained his signature role, however. Spanning well over 3 decades, he's voiced Chucky in several sequels and a TV series. He also appeared on screen as the killer who possessed Chucky, Charles Lee Ray. Dourif reprised the role of Charles Lee Ray on the TV show Chucky, and he later said that appearing in the flesh brought him closer to the character than ever before, telling Polygon, "I could have done this thing in my pajamas up till then, but I was alone. So it was nice to suddenly feel like I was really a part of the franchise, which oddly I didn't before then." In 1987, director Clive Barker unleashed his debut feature Hellraiser, in which a mysterious puzzle box conjures up a horde of leather-clad demons with a flair for sadomasochism. The Cenobites' leader was known as Pinhead, so named for the numerous nails protruding from his head. Portrayed by Doug Bradley, Pinhead became the franchise's central figure in several Hellraiser sequels. Speaking to Louder Sound, Bradley recalled how his performance was honed by Barker while filming the first movie. As he noted, Barker kept telling him to do less, which Bradley initially found frustrating from an acting perspective. Eventually, though, he realized the appeal of a minimalist approach to the role. Bradley recalled, "And really what Clive was saying to me was, do exactly that. Do nothing. The makeup is working overtime on your behalf. And by the time your face is 20 feet tall on a movie screen, you don't need to do anything else. And the more you don't sell it, the more you're selling it." A Nightmare on Elm Street marked the screen debut of one of the most terrifying villains in horror history. A long-dead serial killer scarred beyond recognition by the fire that killed him, Freddy Krueger continues to haunt the dreams of his teenage victims, murdering them in their sleep using the razor-sharp talons on his gloved hand. Behind the mask is actor Robert Englund, who played Freddy in the first film and returned to the role countless times over the years. While Englund hasn't appeared on film as Freddy since 2003's Freddy vs. Jason, he recently reprised the role in a 2018 episode of the ABC sitcom The Goldbergs.
What the? My sweaters!
You got good taste, lady.
Speaking to the Daily Beast, Englund mused about the character's long-lasting appeal. He said, "Now, the sense of humor, he's got some great lines along the way, and he's also unapologetically evil. I think as a precursor to the sort of politically correct moment in time, Freddy stands out as unapologetically evil. He's an equal opportunity killer." Slasher icon Jason Voorhees made his brief screen debut in 1980's Friday the 13th, a movie that pits the late Jason's mother against a group of horny teenagers attending a summer camp. Ari Lehman played Jason in the first Friday the 13th movie, though he wasn't the only person to play the role. In fact, he was the first of 10 actors to have portrayed the character in umpteen installments in the franchise. That said, being the first has given him a special claim on the character. But how did Lehman become Jason during production? As it turns out, it took a whole lot of effort. He later told Media Mics, "Each time it took around 4 hours to apply the makeup. So if there was a 7:30 a.m. call for cast and crew, we would start applying the mask at 3:30. Decades before winning her first Oscar, Jamie Lee Curtis earned her Scream Queen cred in the 1978 classic Halloween, fighting for her life as she fended off the unstoppable Michael Myers. 9 different actors have played the role of Michael over the years, each one lurking behind that iconic mask.
What was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
For purists, however, Michael Myers will always be Nick Castle, who played the character throughout most of the first movie. While appearing at a fan convention, Castle revealed that he'd attended film school with Halloween director John Carpenter and happened to drop by the film's set one day. He decided to hang out in order to see how the film was being made. Carpenter suggested he put on the mask and play Michael, and the rest is history. 40 years later, Castle stepped back into the role in 2018's Halloween, reuniting with OG star Curtis. And it sounds like the actors had a more pleasant reunion than their characters. In an interview with What Culture, he recalled, "She came running over, we hugged each other, and she just looked at me and said, 'Is this nuts or what?'" While the narrative of F.W. Murnau's horror classic Nosferatu, A Symphony of Horror, tells a story more or less identical to that of Bram Stoker's Dracula, the vampire at the heart of it all isn't technically Drac himself. Instead, Nosferatu sees Transylvania terrified by Count Orlok, who was played in the film by Max Schreck. No, not that one. This guy. Schreck was rendered nigh unrecognizable in the movie, with his bald head, pointed ears, prominent fangs, and spider-like fingers and claws. Schreck's performance so chilled moviegoers of the era that rumors emerged claiming he actually was a vampire, one whom Murnau found in the Carpathian Mountains before enlisting him to appear on film. Oddly, there was some strange evidence to support that theory. For one thing, Schreck literally means terror in German. He was never seen on the set out of costume either, and because he was reportedly a method actor, he never broke character throughout filming. That rumor even formed the basis for the 2000 film Shadow of the Vampire, in which Willem Dafoe portrayed Schreck as a bona fide bloodsucker.
I will finish my picture!
This is hardly your picture any longer.
While much about Schreck's life has been lost to the shifting sands of time, the vampire rumor was obviously complete nonsense. What he lacked in bloodthirst, he more than made up for in talent, however. By the time of his death in 1936, Schreck had appeared in more than 50 films and portrayed over 700 roles on stage. In the early days of Hollywood, Lon Chaney was known as the Man of 1,000 Faces for his uncanny ability to transform into his characters using creative makeup and his own physicality. Of his various screen roles, Chaney is best remembered for 1925's The Phantom of the Opera. To portray the film's tragic villain, Chaney employed an array of makeup tricks, including elevating his cheekbones to give him a more skeletal appearance, adding a set of jagged false teeth, and concealing wires beneath putty to pull his nostrils upward. Of his makeup on the movie, Chaney once said, "It's an art, not magic. It was the use of paints in the right shades and the right places, not the obvious parts of the face, which gave the complete illusion of horror." According to Chaney, his transformation into the Phantom was simply a matter of adapting what he'd already done in theater for the emerging medium of cinema. Lon Chaney discouraged his son Creighton Chaney from following his path into showbiz. After the elder Chaney's death in 1930, however, Creighton began acting in movies under the name Lon Chaney Jr. He quickly gained a foothold within the horror genre, most notably when he played the title role in the 1941 horror classic The Wolfman.
I killed Baylor. I killed Richardson. If I stay around here much longer, you can't tell who's gonna be next.
Chaney went on to appear in hundreds of movies and TV series, playing such horror icons as Frankenstein's monster, Count Dracula, and the Mummy. He also reprised his Wolfman role in various films, ranging from Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman to Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein.
Hey, you'll have to get your dog away from the phone. I can't hear a word you're saying.
More than 2 decades later, the original film remained a high point in his career. In a 1965 interview with the Tennessean, he said, "Of all the monster movies, my favorite is The Wolfman because he is the most sensible, the one who is closest to the truth, and also the one who is closest to an actual historical fact. I still watch The Wolfman when I get a chance. I have sort of gotten attached to him."